Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of some tech tips for you. So I'm kind of just doing an overhead camera today because everything I'm going to be doing is stuff that you're going to need to see. So I want to be able to, show close-ups of things, provided the camera will zoom, but maybe not. Okay, it doesn't matter. Anyways, so you're going to see what I'm talking about. So, hi and welcome. I am Juliet Kadish, and this is Colorful Threads. And we are going to be talking bobbins, and everything you need to know about bobbins today. So, bobbins are half your sewing. Half of your machine uses a bobbin. This is the bottom half of your sewing. The top half of your machine has your top threads that come down. So this is 50% of what's going on your machine, and you need to keep your bobbin tensioned and put in correctly. So let's start by talking about bobbins. So your typical bobbin case looks like this one, where it just has regular metal inside. There is another bobbin case out there in the universe that has this backlash spring. You can see that like funny shaped spring down inside there as I turn it around. That's a backlash spring. These are usually used for when you wind your own bobbins and you need to keep it from spinning in an opposite direction when the machine suddenly starts and suddenly stops, because our machines do stop and start sewing very quickly. And commercial wound bobbins have a little bit of a glue on them, and that glue keeps the backlash from happening. So, anytime you have a bobbin, it doesn't matter what kind of bobbin you use. Like in my little bobbin kit, this is my normal bobbin case that I have. At the moment, I have some that are, let's see, these are paper sided. I have some in here that are sideless. I have some in here that are plastic. Like this one is a plastic uh, bobbin case, so that when I'm finished with this one, I have these little empties so that I can wind my own, right? So that's when I'm going to use this guy with that backlash spring, is when I wind my own. But it doesn't matter if you have a sideless or paper sided or plastic sided bobbin, or even a uh, magnetic, right? So this one is actually magnetic. It's got a little magnet strip in here. This magnet doesn't do anything for your tension. All this magnet does is keep that bobbin from falling out. That's it. Nothing else. Just holds it in there so it doesn't fall out on you. So you still need to adjust your bobbin tension even if you're using a magnetic one. So yeah, you can kind of see the NAB are the ones that I'm using at the moment. I got needles in here as well. These are the paper-sided ones I have. These are the plastic-sided ones right now. Of course, they're style L, and there's nothing on this box till I give you any information. So, all right. Now, we've decided that we're going to be using, doesn't matter what bobbin case, and it doesn't matter whether it has paper, plastic, or magnetic. Everything's going to be the same. Even when you're using your backlash spring bobbin case, your tension still needs to be adjusted, especially if you're going from a normal bobbin thread, which is typically about a 60 weight thread, so it's thinner than your normal embroidery thread. So when you do wind your own and you're using a 40 weight thread, this thread is going to be thicker. So when the thickness of the thread changes, your tension has to adjust with that. I'll be using this one in the backlash spring. So you're going to be working with your bobbin tensions. Sitting on my machine, I have two screwdrivers that I work with. One that has a B on it that I use for doing my bobbin tensioning, which has a very, very small blade, because I need that blade of that screwdriver to go in that tensioning. My needle one is bigger. See the difference in my needle, my bobbin one? So I have them marked so I know which one to grab, whatever I'm doing. All right, so I have the tension gauge. And the tension gauge is an amazing thing. I'm going to put a link to this down below. But basically, this gauge takes all the guesswork out of your bobbin tension and what's going on with it. So, if you look on the instructions from MELCO, they will actually have in the instructions that it needs to be between 180 and 220. I tend to lean more towards the 200 to 220 when I'm doing the bobbin tensions. I find that I have less false bobbin breaks that way. But really it's about what works for you. But you do want it tight. So if the 180 that is on this paper is working for you, good. If you're getting false bobbin breaks, tighten it up a little bit. Go to that 200 to 220 mark. And this little gauge makes it simple. It takes all that guesswork out. It actually has numbers on here for you, and I'm going to show you how you use this guy because I use this one. I got a brand new one because mine is all scratched up and, from getting used. So I'm going to take my bobbin, doesn't matter which one it is, and I'm going to put it in. So our bobbins go into the bobbin case in the shape of a 9. You can see that my thread for the bobbin is a number 9. And that number 9 is going to slide right in with the pigtail up at 12 o'clock. And that leaves your thread right here at the corner. So it goes underneath your tension spring. And this is where you're going to check your tension. And in the back old days, we would bounce it. and guess. Now we have gauges so we can get exact. So there's no more guessing. All right, so this thing is going to be out of the pigtail, and I'm just going to lock it down in, and I'm going to go under the first roller, over the top roller, and then to this little part of the gauge here and pull. Now, my number is 300, like 300, yeah, it's average 300. This is too tight. So I need to loosen it because I think I had the tension in this bobbin case set for this thread. And since they're two different manufacturers, some might be 60 weight, some might be 65, some might be, it varies. So this one is different. So on the side, you're just going to go straight in. I'm going to make a small adjustment. So I'm only going to turn the blade of the screwdriver just like a little bit and check. Oh, already it changed. Now we're at almost 250. I'm going to do a small little change and check. Now I'm between 200 and 250. I'm right where I want to be. If you can see that. I don't know if it's getting white washed out or not. 200 to 250, right where I want to be. Cut this off. There's a little knife on the side here, so it just cuts the thread right off for you. Now I'm going to pop this guy out, and oh, there's no magnet in this one, so it fell out. That's okay. The tension's not going to change between now and then. All right, so from here, I'm just going to put it into my pigtail. To my pigtail, twist it around the 2 times. Now it is ready to go in my machine just like this. So now I've got my backlash spring. Let's do this one. I got all of these threads in the way. Where's my little scissors? Too many threads. Too many threads. Trim that one. That one's good. Let's trim this one. Get rid of all of this. Okay, so now I have my backlash spring. And I have this yellow, which is a 40 weight thread that I wound on here. So I'm going to put that in, and let's see what this tension is, because originally in here was this bobbin. Now it's in, now that one's here, and I'm putting a different one in here. I'm putting something different, so I'm gonna need to check it. Number 9, it's under my tension spring. I'm going to pop it in and check. Before I do anything, what is it? It's a little bit. It's like 260. So I'd only need to loosen it a tiny bit. Now I'm right between 200 and 250. Bouncing a little high, but that's to be expected. All right, a tiny little bit more. There we go. Happy right between 2 and 250. Cut off my thread, and I'm ready to go. Now, I kind of sort of talked about winding your own bobbins, and the way I do that, if I want to color match for some reason, is I have a side winder. It's a portable bobbin winder. I don't even know if you can see that, but it's like printed on the front here. I'll put a link to this as well down below. Mine is pink because it was breast cancer awareness when it came out, but it basically works like this. You put your bobbin thread through. This will tighten and loosen, which adjusts how tight your bobbin is wound, which that's a finesse. You got to figure that out by the thread. But this is the little gizmo that I use to wind mine so that I have all these pretty colors to use. Okay, so we talked about tensioning. We talked about magnetics. I think we've kind of talked about everything. Oh, cleaning your bobbin case. Let's clean this because sometimes, you know, your bobbin thread is a filament. It's a thread and it has, if it's pre-wound, a glue on it. So as you're sewing and this thread is pulling underneath these two pieces of metal that are squeezing on it, it's going to strip off some of that glue and save it under there. It's going to strip off fibers from this because a bobbin thread is not one fiber. It's probably 10 or 15 fibers twisted all together. So underneath this tension spring, it gets dirty. So maybe we should check and see if it's dirty. So the way I do that is I just have Post-it notes. I just like Post-it notes because they're real thin paper. And the sticky side here, I stick it to itself, so that when I pinch this, I get like a little scoop on the side. And I don't even know if you can see that or not, but it creates like a little scoop. So I'm going to take that scoop and I'm going to go underneath that tension spring and drag it along and pull it out. The paper is thin enough to not affect the tension or the tension spring, because if you stick business cards and things that are thick under there, you can actually open that spring up and then it's not going to tension properly for you. And you definitely don't want to stick anything metal in there like an old needle or something to try to clean it out, because then you're going to put scratches in there. So we're going to run this in here, we're going to clean this out and see it's pretty clean because I keep mine clean. So clean, tension. Make sure you have the right bobbin case for the right type of bobbin. And this will help you with your sewing and help it to run better. So if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel for more tips and tricks. If you like the video, give me a big thumbs up. And if you want to see any videos that come out anytime I release them, just hit the bell and tell it always. And you'll see when I release a video. Thank you so much for joining me today. Go and check your bobbin tension, make sure that everything is good, and have a wonderful day.